You've been involved with two very different thought experiments on future urbanism. The first is Oceanic City, which is a modular floating settlement, which is tailored for sea level rise. And the other is Toyota Woven City, a prototype for future mobility in Japan, in collaboration with the car manufacturer Toyota. What does each project say about the future of cities?
If we start with the latter, like the Woven City, located at the base of Mount Fuji, Toyota was consolidating some of their manufacturing on other sites, so they had a sort of a good city neighborhood sized plot of land. Toyota actually was founded in the 19th century as a loom maker.
Really?
And then because they were proficient in making very large, complex machines for the textile industry, once the car was invented, they had the capability to make these complex mechanical machines, and they became the largest automaker in the world. And the president of Toyota, Akio Toyota, as his name suggests, he's I think the great grandchild of the founder. He was realizing that it was maybe time to pivot again. So from the maker of looms to the maker of cars, to the maker of cars to the provider of urban mobility in all its forms. And he thought, therefore, since we're not really about making and selling cars, but about providing urban mobility, we need to think about it systemically, and we need a living, working laboratory where we can test integrated forms of mobility, multimodal forms of mobility, driverlessness, fuel cell technology, battery technology, sensory technology, domestic robots, a Matternet that delivers the goods into your home, a fuel cell like hydrogen-based power grid, and to create this environment as a sustainable construction materials like timber and local power production from geothermal and photovoltaics, etc. So based on that, we came up with the idea of the woven city, and of course the woven part. Of course, echoes the heritage of the loom making, but more importantly, it's actually because we said the street today is trying to do everything.
Right.
Therefore, everything gets dominated by the cars. So what if we have three different kinds of streets? One with autonomous electric mobility and pedestrians, more like a classic street. One for pedestrians and personal mobility like e-scooters and bikes. That's more like a promenade. And one that is really like a park where you can walk. And then by shifting, so every third street is one of these, you get these kind of mega blocks of 9, where the center is always some kind of a free space, where you could have a kindergarten or a daycare center or a community center or of the sorts. And then the other 8 blocks are all connected to the car net, but they're also connected to where you can walk or bicycle. So then you end up getting a city where, and I think it's fascinating, we're commissioned by an automaker, and we end up proposing a future city where 2/3 of the right-of-way is actually given over to more exciting forms of life than cars. And in this environment, it's currently under construction, the first two or three phases. We're working on a series of timber buildings, part of phase 2. In this environment, they can they intend to keep testing and deploying prototypes for how to make buildings and cities more connected, more sustainable, and to explore more and more sort of joyous ways of occupying the space that is maybe freed up when you take the cars away.
I'm just curious, how does a car maker make money from a city that doesn't use cars?
I mean, of course, there will still be a lot of there'll be personal mobility. There'll also be mobility as a service. Part of it is we're testing the e-pallets. With a smart and connected city, multimodality becomes much more possible. That you might take a walk from one place to the other, but then maybe you have to go a little bit further. So maybe you summon a sort of some kind of a driverless car, or maybe you just pick up an e-bike.
Yeah.
And I think that is somehow the future is a much more seamlessly woven, complex answer. You don't have to make a definitive choice every morning. It's like, I'm taking the car today and I'm stuck with the car for the rest of the day. No, you might actually always be free to choose exactly what works for you now. And in that sense, I think Toyota really realized that their future is in renewable energy. It's in fuel cells. It's in mobility as a service, and not just in selling cars for private ownership.
Let's talk about Oceanic City, because that's actually under construction now, isn't it, in Busan, South Korea? Describe the city and then the challenges of implementing this urban model.
Yeah, so first of all, we're working on the realization of the first floating city block for Busan.
Right.
And the idea of the floating city was, the founders were, one of the founders was a former minister from French Polynesia, and a sovereign nation that is facing challenges of resiliency and could end up sinking because of rising sea levels. So the idea was to develop today the floating city that could save these island nations tomorrow. So we've already worked with a company called we co-founded called Urban Rigger, that is using floating student housing,
right,
to create a kind of a standing fleet of student accommodation that can be deployed at dock sites in different parts of the city. In Busan, the idea is to create a series of floating city blocks that take advantage of the scarcity of land in a booming port city like Busan. And in doing so, we develop all the experience with large platforms where the platforms contain all of the necessary infrastructure for a modern city, waste management, fresh water supply, water treatment, energy storage, even food production, and then what kind of buildings can you build on top? Of course, you want to keep the weight low. So working with like bamboo and timber, you want to keep the center of gravity low. So you're not going to put like skyscrapers on these floating platforms. So it begins to sort of define a city fabric of what a floating city could look like. And by doing it today on commercial terms in cities where, waterfront property or inner city property is incredibly valuable, you're essentially printing real estate. But by maturing that technology and the manufacturing now, a decade or two or three from now, when a city like Miami Beach or like a country like the Maldives are beginning to struggle with sea levels, you can actually grow those cities on floating parts and maybe convert some of the existing land into parklands or wetlands.